Imagine going to work every day and your skin starts to glow. Not metaphorically, literally glowing in the dark like something out of a horror movie. Now imagine your employer telling you that it's perfectly safe. That's not fiction. That happened to real women in real factories in the United States in the 1920s. This is the story of the Radium Girls. Welcome to Forgotten History. This is the channel where we dig up the stories your textbook conveniently skipped. And this one is going to make you angry. So let's get into it. In the early 1900s, a new element was making headlines all over the world: radium. It had just been discovered a few years earlier by Marie and Pierre Curie, and people were obsessed with it. Radium glowed. It seemed almost magical, and because almost nobody understood radiation yet, companies started putting it into everything: toothpaste, face cream, even drinking water, marketed as a health tonic. So when factories started using radium to paint watch dials so they'd glow in the dark, nobody thought twice about it. The companies hired young women, mostly in their teens and 20s, to do the painting. It was delicate work. You needed a fine tip on your paintbrush to paint tiny numbers accurately. And here's the detail that changes everything. To keep the brush tip fine, the women were taught to do something called lip pointing. They dipped the brush in radium paint and then put the tip of the brush between their lips to shape it into a fine point before painting the numbers. Over and over, hundreds of times a day. They were literally ingesting radium paint on repeat for years, and the company knew it was dangerous. Internal memos and studies from the radium industry, later revealed in court, showed that executives and scientists working with radium in laboratories took serious safety precautions: lead aprons, protective tongs, careful handling. But the women on the factory floor were told it was harmless. Some were even told it would give them rosy cheeks and make them healthier. For a while, everything seemed fine. Then the women started getting sick. It started small: jaw pain, loose teeth, fatigue. Then it got horrifying. Their jawbones began to disintegrate, a condition doctors started calling radium jaw. Some women's bones became so brittle that a doctor could remove pieces of their jaw simply by touching it. Some developed anemia. Some developed bone cancer, tumors forming in places no one expected, because radium chemically behaves like calcium in the human body, which means it doesn't just pass through you. It gets absorbed directly into your bones, and it stays there for the rest of your life. Doctors at the time didn't immediately connect the dots. Radium was still considered safe by the public and by most of the medical establishment. The women were young and healthy and had no obvious reason to be this sick. But a few of them refused to accept that this was just bad luck. A small group of these women, later nicknamed the Radium Girls by the press, decided to fight back. They sued their employer. This was an enormous decision for the time. These were young, working-class women going up against a powerful company in an era when workers, especially women, had almost no legal protections and very little public support for standing up to an employer. The company pushed back hard. They argued the women's illnesses weren't caused by radium at all. They dragged out the legal process for years, hoping, some historians believe, that the women would simply die before the case ever reached a verdict. Several of them did die during the legal fight, but the survivors kept going. Eventually, the case became a landmark moment in American labor law. The publicity around the Radium Girls case forced real change. It led to new occupational safety standards. It helped establish the legal right of workers to sue for damages caused by unsafe workplace conditions. And it directly influenced how the U.S. government began regulating industrial safety and radiation exposure for decades afterward. In a very real sense, the modern idea that a company can be held responsible for slowly poisoning its own workers traces back to these women. It's easy to look back at something like this and think, well, people just didn't know better back then. But the truth is more complicated and more disturbing. Some people did know, they just didn't think the women needed to be told. That's why this story is worth remembering. Not just the tragedy of it, but the fact that a handful of ordinary women who were dying used the little power they had left to make sure it didn't happen to anyone else. If stories like this are new to you, that's exactly why this channel exists. There are hundreds of moments like this in American history that never made it into the textbooks, and I'm going to keep digging them up. So if you don't want to miss the next one, hit subscribe. It genuinely helps this channel grow, and it takes about 2 seconds. The Radium Girls paid an unimaginable price, but because of them, workplace safety in this country looks completely different today. Thanks for watching Forgotten History. I'll see you in the next one.